Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch channel on YouTube. In this video I'm going to be reviewing Journey of Souls, a book from 1994 that is a case study of life between lives. This book is written by Michael Newton. He's a hypnotherapist. According to his the description on his own website here, he's a certified master hypnotherapist who began regressing his clients back in time to access their memories of former lives. He stumbled onto a discovery of enormous proportions that it is possible to, quote unquote, see into the spirit world through the mind's eye of subjects who are hypnotized or superconscious state. Moreover, clients in this altered state are able to describe what their souls were doing between their lives on Earth. That's a pretty bold claim. I'm going to review this book in a couple different ways. One, I'm going to review it for whether or not it's a good read or a good listen if you're listening to it on Audible like I did. And two, we're going to review it for its evidential value. Is it something you should believe in, or is it something that you should just be intrigued about but not necessarily believe or put your any kind of vested interest in it, that you become convinced that what is in this book is in fact true. So I did read the book, the entire book. He has a series of books, but I only read this one. I think this is the very first one. And it is an intriguing read. It is captivating. I listened to the book beginning to end, and it held my attention. I assume if you were reading it in paperback or on a Kindle or something, it would do the same thing. It would definitely hold your interest. It is intriguing to listen to this book. It was mostly his transcripts between his hypnotherapy sessions with his patients. So a lot of the book is different patients, him asking questions, their answers, and it's like a transcript sort of a read, but the information is quite intriguing. Now, evidence and facts. Is this book worth believing in? And how do I determine that? Perhaps this would be a good chance to show you people out there how I determine whether or not something is worth taking as fact, or taking it as evidential, or taking it as bullshit. How do you determine that? So I read the book, or I listened to the book very carefully. I took notes, and I tried to then go see if anybody else on the internet had any of the same conclusions about this book. So the first place I checked was Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a good place to go looking for any kind of data that verifies the paranormal. However, if you're looking for pseudo-skeptics bashing every fucking thing that they can possibly bash that violates reductive materialism, Wikipedia is where you go, because the pseudo-skeptics have like an army that is there strictly to basically attack Wikipedia for anything paranormal, anything that violates reductive materialism. And it doesn't matter if you can then go outside of Wikipedia and verify that what the attacks aren't really accurate, or they're misleading you. It's just terrible place. But I did go to Wikipedia just to see how the book was being attacked. To my surprise, I found very little information on Michael Newton on Wikipedia. It's bare bones. There's nothing. It basically just says that he publishes this book, Destiny of Souls, and that's pretty much it. So I thought that was really interesting. And then the only other place I found that had a detailed review of the book that was of any meaning to me was on angelfire.com. That's a free hosting site, and this must have been up for a while. This post here could maybe go back to the 90s. Oh no, it goes back to like 2007. It looks like 90s HTML to me, with all this crazy graphics shit going on here. But so this reviewer here, which is L. Carter is his website, Lawrence, Kansas. Oh, okay, whatever. So Larry Carter, there it is. Larry Carter is the writer of this review, and pretty much I have to say, with some exception about some of the comments he makes about near-death experiences, his review is spot on to basically what I was going to say about the book. So, if you study enough information, if you're trying to get to the essence of what is reality, do we have a spirit, do we have afterlife, what is going on? What is the fucking bullshit that is going on that we're just not privy to all the time because we're so focused on the material world with our five senses that we sometimes miss what is right in front of us in the age of information, when you can go and research anything you want, and if you just do it without belief, perseverance, without having the backfire effect, without having all the cognitive bias bullshit that gets in the way of trying to see reality for what it actually is, instead of trying to keep some fucking belief you got going on like atheists do and religious people do all the time, and just looking for the truth, for real, what do you actually see? Well, what you end up seeing is that we are spirit beings and there is an afterlife. Consciousness does survive death. NDE cases where they have verified out-of-body perceptions, the science of consciousness, what scientists are willing to admit, what they're willing to bend over backward and twist themselves into pretzels trying to maintain the reductive materialist world view, reveals the truth. So, does the content of the book, Journey of Souls, fit into the reality that there's an afterlife? Well, yeah, it does. Now, it offers a broad and also detailed view of the spirit world. And that had me deeply concerned, because anybody that tries to tell you they got all the answers, I've discovered over the many years of research I've done to have all kinds of red flags go up, because you have to dig in deep to the data to find out if there's any merit to it. So, on the surface, the book is appealing because it offers a lot of answers to a lot of questions, and it does seem to fit into that with limited information that we have about the spirit world. Matter of fact, this guy here makes a statement in his review, which I'll link to, which is something I've said. Trying to understand the spirit world is basically like trying to understand a higher dimensional plane or something like that. Is virtually impossible while our consciousnesses are restricted by the physical brain. We have a limited perception here intentionally, for some reason, to experience this or for whatever reason. Now, is there evidence of reincarnation? Yes. You can go research all the stuff from Dr. Ian Stevenson and all kinds of other stuff, and cases out there that are absolutely mind-blowing that point at the fact that reincarnation does exist. Does everybody reincarnate? The data is unclear. However, this book, Journey of Souls, makes the claim that we do. But the data itself is unclear unless you're willing to accept this as data and evidence, which I am not, and I'll explain why. This guy stumbled onto the same problem that I saw in the book. Now, remember, this book was written in the 1990s. It was published in 1994. You have to think about what 1994 was like. This was not the age of information yet. Well, the internet was there, but it was really in its infancy as far as consumer internet back in 1994. It didn't really start to pick up steam until 1995, and even then it is nothing like it is today. Today, you don't have to be an ignorant asshole anymore. You can go do research and find out the truth for yourself on just about anything. And the only real person that's in your way most of the time is yourself. Belief, perseverance, that's the big one. Now, this guy noticed the same thing that I noticed in the book. I heard a name. Somebody, a patient, was recalling a past life, and I forget if the patient was a man or a woman at this point. But they were recalling that they had been a lawyer. Let's see here. I believe he picks it up over here. Hypnotism is hardly new. Some say it has been commonly practiced by the shamans and healers of 1,000 years ago. So why is he the first person to tell us about this specific information? That's true. That dawned on me too. Why has nobody figured this out before Michael Newton? Granted, he claims to have developed hypnosis techniques that allow him to go deeper into the trance state than normal, but even this does not sound all that unique, given how exacting his information is. Why haven't these very specific details found their way into numerous tribal mythologies across the globe? On the other hand, New Age enthusiasts insist that this is the most critical time in human history and that we should expect spiritual messengers to be among us and lead us into the new age of our development. In case you haven't realized it yet, I think New Age, just like religions in general, are a bunch of bullshit. Now, in Chapter 5 of Journey of Souls, he gives the example of a hypnotherapy client who claimed he experienced, he experienced a recent series of male lives, culminating with a short life as a prosecuting attorney called Ross Feldon in the state of Oklahoma during the 1880s. As Ross, my client, had committed suicide at age 33 in a hotel room by shooting himself in the head. Now, right there, as I'm listening to the book, this is the first thing I wrote down. Ross Feldon, question mark. Because if you could find Ross Feldon, a person who lived in the 1880s, committed suicide and was a prosecuting attorney, bingo, this book now becomes quite interesting and quite important. If you could then somehow verify that this person being hypnotized, if there was a way to verify that they couldn't have possibly have known Ross Feldon, or it would have been very unlikely for them to know Ross Feldon, now the book becomes potentially factually correct, or at least has a high level of evidential value. Unfortunately, somebody did all the work, so I didn't have to. Yay. Reddit has this whole breakdown. Let's see. So this guy named Tan Carade does this whole search and report here. He goes and tries to find Ross Feldon. He does a detailed analysis of the book and of this one case of Ross Feldon, who apparently does not exist. There's no evidence of a Ross Feldon prosecuting attorney suicide. And then the problem is Oklahoma was the Indian Territory until 1907. So you have at least one error in this book, one mistake. And that mistake is made worse by the fact that the book was published in 1994. Which means if you were writing a book in the 1990s and you were going to throw in a character like Ross Feldon, you wouldn't need to bother doing research to find out Ross Feldon or somebody like him that died in the 1880s, because in 1994, when somebody's reading this book, there's really no way for them to check that unless they have access to records in Oklahoma, or they're willing to go to the public library or hire somebody to do the research. It would have been very unlikely. However, today's day and age, we can do that. So that's the problem I have with this book. The book is intriguing. The book has great value of being a theoretical piece to me, like a what if, I'm not saying that Michael Newton's a liar. He has this whole Newton Institute. There is a whole series of books on this. I've only read the first one, so I'm very limited on the information. I'm only reviewing the book in like a vacuum. If I discover information in the future that changes my view on any of this, I'll let you know, because I think if you watched my videos from the beginning, you'll see that I'm quite willing. I don't have belief perseverance. I've decided on my channel here, and as I'm doing my research to try to figure out reality and existence, I'm going to be honest with myself. So as a result of that honesty, I've lost my religion. I also see atheists as a bunch of fucking assholes who just get in the way of the truth. Bunch of pseudo-skeptic apologists for reductive materialism and assholes. That's all atheists are in general. Religion is about power and control and dogmas and doctrines and fear and manipulation, and also a bunch of failed fucking bullshit when it comes to trying to plug in their little book of Revelation to figure out when the end of the world's coming. That's only failed like 2,000 times. They've given us dates for that. You know, I have to do a whole video on Revelation, but it's gonna take so much energy to review the book of Revelation, and there's so much information I have on that, and sometimes my mind is like a junk pile of data, so I have to organize it before I can present it to you. And I hope I've organized this book review well enough for you to follow along what I'm getting at here. So, I want to compare this book to just kind of segue into it. Like, okay, so if this book isn't evidential for me, then how would I determine what is, what isn't? Okay, so veridical out-of-body experiences. I've mentioned this before, but, you know, let's face it, folks. If you're one of the people watching my channel that are getting what I'm saying, or you understand where I'm coming from, that's great. But I have to tell you, you're in the minority based on the comments I'm seeing in the description section below, the comment section, or some of the other. When I watch some of these other people on YouTube and their videos and what they're claiming, it is quite clear to me we are a world where the masses in general are a bunch of fucktards. You have a bunch of manipulative fucking elites with their little schemes and conspiracies trying to run the world. And there's a few of us that stand outside of all their little dialectics, that have broken free of the controls, and that can see things as an observer and not a participant. And you get closer to the truth that way. So, veridical out-of-body experiences. Constantly attacked by the atheist shills and trolls and fucktards out there that just have to destroy everything, because if it breaks reductive materialism, it can't possibly exist, no matter what proof you have or how many doctors and nurses verify something that a patient says. What is evidential? Here's a case. This is a nurse who wrote this article. She's also written a book. She did a study on near-death experiences. This particular case that she had, a patient that's named Tom here, I'm sure that's probably not his real name, but it is a verified case with medical records and all that stuff. Plus, she was there, the nurse in question that wrote the book, Penny Satori. What's so special about this case? Not only does this guy have verified out-of-body experience where he's able to see what a nurse that had been out of his view was doing, but his hand that had been disfigured since he was 9 years old is healed after he comes back into the body. Now, this happens a lot in NDE cases where somebody has a miraculous healing, a healing that defies medical science or defies reductive materialist science. This guy's hand, who was disfigured and medically documented as not being fixable without major surgery, was healed after he returned to his body and was revived. Bingo. Proof. You have doctors, nurses, medical records, a patient's testimony, and then you use simple common sense, the same fucking shit that jurors use when they listen to a witness on a witness stand and look at evidence in the courtroom. You can look at this, and if you don't try to plug in your little reductive materialist bullshit in there with your little atheist, oh, it can't, there's got to be a way to explain it so that it doesn't violate, we can't have an afterlife. Fucking assholes. So, yeah, you have Tom here. There's one case. Nina Morjani. I read her book. I reviewed it. It's quite an interesting read. Medically documented. A truly miraculous case. This woman was dying. Her body riddled with incurable cancer. And her NDE, she has a choice, come back to the body, be healed, go on with your life. And boom, she is healed. She is today, picture of health. I mean, if you read her book, folks, she was messed up. And you have doctors that verify her condition. Multiple, you know how many doctors get involved? Cancer patients like this. There's a whole bunch of them. I know, I have family members who are going through this. And it is an ordeal, and even if it's curable, it is an ordeal. It is a draining ordeal to deal with this stuff. Hers was terminal, nothing they could do, and boom, she's cured. Now you would think some atheist asshole would sit there and go, you know what, maybe I should reconsider my life view. Maybe I should reconsider, maybe there is something to this. It doesn't mean you have to follow religion, fucktard. It doesn't mean that you have to become, you guys are really good at attacking like religious doctrines and dogmas and factual errors in the Bible and stuff like that. But when you get confronted with shit that breaks your rules, your fucking boundaries, you freak out and you become the assholes that you claim to hate. That's what pisses me off about atheists, folks. I just want to... So Pam Reynolds, you can look her up. A lot of information about her. She was... Man, there's no way to explain that. Her body, I mean, they've tried. Infidels.org does this whole apologetic religious style write-up of how she is just a... She must have heard it while her brain was frozen. Her body was, and there's nothing. And her ears had these clickers in her, or it was clicking 100 decibels, but she's somehow able to hear everything and see everything. And yeah, right. So, sorry, I'm segueing into atheism here, but I do want to say one more thing about this.
As an excuse.
This guy here, he's interesting. He's popular on YouTube. Look at this video, 222,460. Look, he's finally hit the hate markers here, boy, because he said why I was wrong about atheism. And he is an atheist. And I know this video is now segued into my tirade on atheism, but I have to do this because, it does connect all the way back to the original book. Why, if I'm reviewing something, it is truly to review it for its evidential value, or, is just a good read. But it's also so frustrating to deal with all the trolls and shills, comments, and just see how fucking ridiculous people are, and why we can never come together as a people and evolve spiritually while we're in these bodies on earth, because our brains makes most of us a bunch of fucking assholes. Just the way it is, folks. Just the way it is. But Stephen Molyneux here, he's finally realized that atheism is wrong about so many things, but still doesn't quite get that they're also wrong about their model of reality, which is reductive materialism. See, I think he's still an atheist, even though he realizes that atheists have simply taken the government and made that their god in most cases. And for all their... it's a video you should watch. I'll link to it in the description below. So, that's it. I know I got sidetracked a little bit, but I thought it was worth, still makes the video interesting. So, here's Journey of Souls, 1994. A good read, but unfortunately, because of the evidence or lack of involved, not so good. So read it, but don't believe it. That's my view on this book as of right now. Pending more information, I may read the rest of his books and look more into this Newton Institute he has, where hypnotherapists do this stuff all the time. But are these real memories, or are they false memories? I don't know. So I'm not saying that it's a lie. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be something you invest. Like, okay, I understand now what the spirit world is like. See, it's easy to figure out there is a spirit world, and that you have consciousness after your body and brain dies, and you're still around, and you go somewhere, and there's definitely going to be an afterlife. And some of you will come back and reincarnate. At least some of you. Maybe all of us, who knows. But that's the limit of what you can deduct as being correct. And that everything else is up for grabs at this point. So you have to be very careful. It's like a minefield out there. Bunch of fucking assholes that want you to tell you what to think. Alright, that's it. Take care, folks. See you next time. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the like button and, or give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Take care. Bye.